Hey, what's up guys, Pattycakes here. I've spent a lot of time over the past few days farming for the new weapons in Season 11, and I was lucky enough to get what I consider to be a potential god roll for the new high impact pulse Cold Denial. I wanted to make this video to give you a quick first impression of this pulse and how it compares to other options in the new sandbox. Let's cover the perks available first, then I'll share the best roll I've found so far and give you my opinions on how it's feeling in the Crucible. So starting with the first column, you have barrel options instead of sights on this weapon, and that includes all the typical stuff like hammer forged, small bore, and extended barrel. Since I play mouse and keyboard on PC, I prioritize range since stability isn't all that much of an issue for me as long as it's fairly reasonable. So I would recommend any of the barrels that give you a range boost. On controller, you may want to focus on some of the barrels that give you more of a stability buff to control that recoil. In the second column, we have the magazine options like ricochet rounds, high cal, and appended mag. Here, I tend to gravitate towards the perks that give extra range as well. My favorites are the ones that give +5 range like ricochet rounds, high cal, armor piercing, and light mag. The last two columns are where things get pretty interesting. We have some of the new perks in Season 11 like Killing Wind, Unrelenting, and Sympathetic Arsenal. With the Pulse, we're typically trying to optimize our range game and use a more close range option like a shotgun to cover our close quarters battles. So for that reason, in column 3 I'm mostly looking for perks like Killing Wind, Feeding Frenzy, or Zen Moment. Pulse Monitor recently got a big buff and I just haven't had time to properly test it yet, but that may be a good option as well. Grave Robber and Threat Detector mostly play into closer range fights, although Threat Detector can work as a makeshift quick draw if you're in close quarters and need to switch to your other weapon, so that might not be a bad option either. In column 4 we have a few lethality perks like Swashbuckler, Multikill Clip, and Headseeker, as well as ease of use perks like Eye of the Storm and Sympathetic Arsenal. We also have the new perk Unrelenting, which gives health regen after defeating multiple enemies. I tested this with some friends, and in PvP that number seems to be killing 2 enemies in order to trigger the health regen, which could be a nice option as well, especially if you're taking on multiple enemies in a longer fight. I also thought it was interesting that it seems to scale with your recovery stat. My health seemed to come back much faster when I was at 100 recovery compared to 20 recovery. So with all of these perk options, what do I consider to be the god roll? My best roll so far is Hammer Forged, Ricochet Rounds, Killing Wind, Multi-Kill Clip, and Arranged Masterwork. I think this combination maximizes the potential range without losing much in the way of stability or handling, so it still feels really nice to use. And the addition of Multi-Kill Clip allows you to hit much easier 2-burst kills on enemies when you do miss a few headshots. So what do I think of this gun so far? Here's my list of things I like and dislike after playing several games with it. First, let's cover what I like about it. It has very clean sights that make it really easy to pick up enemies. One of my big pet peeves in FPS games is using a gun that hurts my visibility. I just don't like sights that obstruct my vision. The zoom on this weapon is very low, which is helpful for closer range fights, but maybe it hurts it a bit in the medium to long range fights. The zoom stat is 14, which is actually the same zoom as most hand cannons like the Dire Promise. For comparison's sake, the Redrix Broadsword Pulse Rifle has a zoom stat of 18. I really like the perk Killing Wind on this weapon. In testing, it seems to extend the damage range fall off from about 30 meters to 34 on this particular roll. The handling buff that it provides is fairly noticeable as well. I tested switching from Cold Denial to Not Forgotten, both low handling weapons, by measuring the frames between switching until the first shot fired, and it seemed to cut the frames from 47 to 36, saving about 10 frames while Killing Wind was activated. From what I can tell, it also seems to give about a +50 mobility buff while Killing Wind is activated. I measured this by doing the Hunter Dodge recharge test. I did a dodge at 30 mobility with Killing Wind activated the whole time, and that matched up to be just about the same recharge time as doing a dodge with 80 mobility. For curiosity, I also tested 100 mobility with Killing Wind activated, and it didn't seem to improve the dodge timing any faster than just using a normal 100 mobility dodge. So as far as I can tell, it doesn't seem to stack over 100 mobility. Multi-Kill Clip on this weapon changes the base headshot damage from 36 to 42 with 1 stack, 48 with 2 stacks, and 53 with 3 stacks. So once you get this perk rocking, it makes hitting those 2-burst kills much easier by lowering the headshot requirement. Although in practice, I think getting 3 stacks of Multi-Kill Clip is going to be a pretty rare thing for most players. I also noticed that the hipfire on both the ground and in the air seemed reasonably useful on this gun. I was often using it to clean up a kill on someone with low health if they tried to run away from me. You don't typically think of mid-air hipfire pulse rifle battles, but this was actually a nice surprise. And finally, I really do like how this weapon looks. It's nice having some new exciting gun models in the game. In particular, I found the shader Carminica to look really nice on this weapon. Okay, so that basically covers what I like about it so far. What about the downsides? As far as pulse rifles go, I think this is one of the best options in the game right now for high impact pulses. However, I don't personally feel that high impact pulses really fit my playstyle all that well. I tend to be a fairly aggressive player, and I find with these high impact pulses, I'm really forced to play a much slower and more rangy game. If you miss a full or even partial burst, it can be very punishing. For that reason, it feels like more of a back of the map laning weapon, and personally I felt it was pretty tough to get aggressive with it. While the perk pool is pretty interesting, it doesn't feel quite as lethal or rewarding to me as something like the Redrix Claymore or Broadsword. Even with Multikill Clip, at best it seems to improve the ease of use more than actually dropping the time to kill. After spending a lot of time on the 600 RPM autos, this gun just feels a lot less lethal compared to something like the Gnawing Hunger that I mentioned in my last video. Overall, I would say that Cold Denial is a good option for that range pocket somewhere between the auto and scout range, maybe around 25 to 35 meters, but anything outside of that range it really starts to feel that damage drop off. And up close, I didn't really feel comfortable dueling with it, since anyone who had good movement made it really easy to miss a burst or two. It felt more punishing to miss compared to something like Bygones. And finally, the default range is okay, but not amazing. I felt like I was losing long range duels consistently to scouts and snipers. Part of this also may be due to the lower zoom stat, which I don't think makes a whole lot of sense on this particular type of weapon. But I'd love to hear what you think. Do you have a role that you're really in love with? How do you feel about this pulse compared to other options in the sandbox right now? If you did like this video, a thumbs up really helps me out. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next video, and also join our community Discord. There's a link to check it out in the description. That's all for now. Catch you guys next time.